I didn't believe in ghost stories, especially not the one they call the Bell Witch. I thought it was just another piece of Tennessee folklore people like to exaggerate. But a few months ago, I moved into a house tied to that legend, and something started talking to us. Not loud, not violent, just quiet, patient, like it had been waiting. At first it only whispered, then it started using our names, and eventually it sounded exactly like us. I'm telling you this because I made a mistake. I answered it. And if you hear your name tonight when no one's there, you need to understand what happens next. I didn't believe in ghost stories. Not then. I used to think people saw what they expected to see, especially in places like rural Tennessee, where every old road had a story attached to it. I'd always been the kind of person who needed proof. Something solid. Something you could point to and explain. That's probably why what happened to us still bothers me the way it does. Because I can't explain any of it. We moved out to Robertson County about a year ago. I'd just taken a remote job, better pay, less stress, and we figured it was the perfect excuse to leave the city behind. My wife Erin was all for it. She wanted space, quiet, somewhere we could actually breathe. The house we found, it sat back off a narrow gravel road, surrounded by trees so thick you couldn't see another house from the front porch. 2 stories, old but sturdy, with a wraparound porch and just enough land to feel private without being overwhelming. And the price? Way lower than anything else we'd seen. That should have been the first warning. The seller was a man named Caldwell. I only met him once, the day we signed the papers. He kept everything quick, too quick, now that I think about it. Didn't offer much conversation at the televid, but not promote, we too. And I don't just Aaron. That. Like would around. A set. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just it came. I remember. It did. 3 knocks. Same I. She listened for. Probably 2. So I too. W. Same cop on Instecket. No. By then. Because that. It Aaron heard it too. We were both standing in the law, and then something just spoke. Not clearly, not in but, it had intent. Aaron grabbed. We stood. Wah. Nothing. That nigh, stay. That's what I too. That, the woman I. There was a pause, not long, just enough to notice. Then she said, that the old Bell place? I hesitated. I guess so. Why? She didn't answer right away, just gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Then she smiled, too quickly, and said, nothing, just an old name around here. I pushed a little, asked what she meant. She shook her head and rang up my stuff. People used to tell stories, she said, but that's all they are. Stories. I should have left it at that, but on the drive home I kept thinking about the way she said it. Not dismissive. Careful. That afternoon, while Aaron was unpacking upstairs, I sat in the living room with my laptop and looked it up. Bell, Tennessee. It didn't take long to find it. The Bell Witch. I remember reading through it, history, accounts, all of it, and feeling this slow, creeping unease settle in my chest. A family, a voice, knocking in the walls, whispers, a presence that called itself Kate. I closed the laptop and laughed it off, said it was just coincidence. Old folklore lining up with an old house. That's all it was. It had to be. But that night, when the whisper came back, it wasn't faint anymore. It was right behind me, and this time, I understood it. It said one word. Kate. After that night, I stopped sleeping normally. It wasn't a decision I made, it just happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept expecting to hear it again. That voice, not loud, not aggressive, just close, too close. Erin tried to keep things normal at first. She made coffee in the mornings, kept unpacking, even put music on while she worked, like she could fill the silence with something safe, something familiar. But the house didn't stay quiet long enough for that to matter. The knocking came back the next night, only this time it didn't wait until midnight. It started just after sunset, 3 slow knocks, somewhere deep in the walls behind the living room. I froze when I heard it, standing there with a glass in my hand, listening. 3 knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. Same rhythm, same control. Erin stepped into the room and looked at me before I even said anything. "You hear it?" she asked. I nodded. We stood there together, neither of us moving, like if we did, we'd interrupt something we weren't supposed to. The knocking shifted again, this time traveling upward, like it was moving through the walls toward the second floor. I grabbed the flashlight and headed for the stairs without thinking. Erin called after me, told me to wait, but I didn't. I needed to see something. Anything. The knocking stopped the second I reached the top. Not faded, not trailed off, just stopped. Like it knew I was there. I checked every room again. Closets, windows, even the attic crawl space. Nothing. No sound. No movement. Just that same heavy, unnatural quiet pressing in around me. When I came back downstairs, Erin was standing in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself. "It said something," she told me. I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, like saying it out loud would make it worse. "I was in the kitchen," she said, "and I heard it, right next to me." My throat went dry. "What did it say?" She looked at me then, and I could see it in her face. The shift. The fear was different now, more personal. "It said my name." We didn't talk much after that. Not because we didn't want to, but because we didn't know what to say that wouldn't make it real. That night we left the lights on in the bedroom. It didn't help. The whisper came again sometime after midnight. Only now it wasn't just one voice. It sounded like the same one, but layered. Like something trying to repeat itself over and over, slightly out of sync. Words forming, breaking, forming again. I couldn't make it all out, but I caught pieces. "Hear you. See you. Stay." I sat up slowly, heart pounding, trying not to move too fast. Erin was already awake beside me, staring into the dark like she was afraid to blink. "Do you hear that?" I whispered. She nodded without looking at me. Then, without warning, it changed. The voice sharpened, focused, and for the first time, it didn't sound distant. It sounded like it was in the room. "Daniel." I froze. "That's my name." I didn't respond. I didn't breathe. I just sat there, waiting for it to say something else. It didn't. Not right away, but I could feel it. That's the part that's hardest to explain. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was presence. Like standing too close to someone in the dark and knowing they're there without seeing them. The next day I tried to prove it. I set my phone up in the living room and left it recording while we stayed outside on the porch. We sat there for almost an hour, not talking, just listening to the quiet. When we went back in, I checked the recording. It was blank. No knocking, no whispering, not even the normal creaks of the house. Just silence. Complete, unnatural silence. "That's not possible," I said more to myself than to Erin. She didn't answer. She was staring at the hallway. "Did you just hear that?" she asked. I turned. Nothing. "What?" She frowned, confused. "You didn't hear me?" My chest tightened. "You didn't say anything." "Yes, I did," she said. "I called your name. Twice." I shook my head slowly. "I didn't hear anything." We stood there looking at each other, both of us realizing the same thing at the same time. It wasn't just talking to us. It was talking as us. That night, things got worse. Not louder, not more violent, just clearer. I was in the living room, sitting on the couch, trying to distract myself with TV. Erin had gone upstairs about 20 minutes earlier. I heard her call my name from the hallway. "Daniel." I turned toward the sound automatically. "Yeah?" No answer. I waited. Nothing. I got up and walked toward the stairs. "Erin?" Still nothing. I climbed halfway up before I saw her, standing at the top looking down at me. Her face looked pale. "Why are you calling me?" she asked. A cold weight settled in my chest. "I didn't call you," I said. She shook her head. "Yes, you did. You were just downstairs." I didn't say anything. We stood there halfway between floors, staring at each other. And then, from somewhere behind me, in the dark of the living room, I heard my own voice. Soft, calm, perfect. "Aaron?" I turned so fast I nearly lost my footing. There was nothing there. No movement, no shadow, just the empty room. But I knew what I'd heard. It wasn't close. It wasn't distant. It was exactly where I had been standing moments before. That was the moment something shifted in me. Up until then, I'd been trying to understand it, explain it, fit it into something that made sense. But standing there, listening to my own voice come from a place I wasn't, I realized something I couldn't ignore anymore. This thing wasn't random. It wasn't just noise. It was learning, watching, listening, and whatever it was getting better. That night, long after Aaron had fallen asleep, I sat alone in the dark, staring into the hallway. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I just waited. And eventually, it spoke. Soft, measured, like it had been thinking about what to say. "I hear you." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still. A long pause followed. Then quieter, almost amused. "I listen." After that night, I stopped talking out loud. Not completely, but enough that Erin noticed. She asked me about it one morning while we were sitting at the kitchen table, coffee between us, untouched. The kind of silence that doesn't feel normal anymore. "You've barely said anything since yesterday," she said. I shrugged, staring down into my cup. "Just tired." That was part of it. I hadn't slept more than a couple hours at a time. Every time I drifted off, I'd wake up convinced I'd missed something, like the house had been active while I wasn't paying attention. But the truth was, I didn't want to give it anything else. Because it was listening, and worse, it was learning how to sound like us. Erin didn't push me too hard. I think she understood, in her own way. She'd started changing too, keeping her answers short, avoiding being alone in any room for too long. We moved through the house carefully, like we were guests instead of owners, like something else had priority. The voice didn't come back right away that day. No knocking, no whispers, just silence. And somehow, that was worse, because now we were waiting for it, anticipating it. Every creak of the floor, every shift in the air made us tense up, listening for something that wasn't there. It didn't happen until that evening. We were in the living room again. Lights on, TV running low, just background noise. Neither of us was really watching it. I remember Erin standing up to head toward the kitchen. She made it halfway across the room before she stopped. Just stopped. "What?" I asked. She didn't turn around. "I heard it," she said quietly. My chest tightened. "Where?" She slowly pointed toward the hallway. "Behind me." I stood up, heart already racing. "What did it say?" There was a pause. Then she turned, and I could see the color had drained from her face. "It told me not to go in there." Something cold slid down my spine. "Not to go where?" "The kitchen," she said. "It said, don't leave." We both looked toward the hallway. Nothing moved, nothing changed. But the air felt different, heavier, like the space itself was holding something back. I stepped forward, more out of instinct than courage, and walked past her into the kitchen. "See?" I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "Nothing's... Daniel." I froze. The voice wasn't behind me. It wasn't in the walls. It was right next to my ear, close enough that I felt the shape of the word more than I heard it. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because something in me already knew. There was nothing there to see. I backed out of the kitchen slowly, not breaking eye contact with Erin. Okay, I said, my voice lower now, controlled. Okay, we're leaving. She nodded immediately. No argument, no hesitation. We didn't pack much, just the essentials, phones, keys, a couple bags, enough to get out for the night, maybe longer. We didn't talk while we moved. Didn't want to risk saying anything it could use. When we stepped outside, I felt it immediately. The air was different. Not safe, but separate. Like whatever was inside the house didn't quite reach the porch. We got in the car without looking back. I started the engine, hands shaking more than I wanted to admit. "Where are we going?" Aaron asked. "I don't care," I said, "just away." I pulled down the gravel road, the house disappearing behind the trees as we turned onto the main stretch. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Like maybe it had been tied to the house after all. We drove in silence for about 10 minutes. No radio, no talking, just the sound of the engine and the tires against the road. And then, from the back seat, I heard it, a soft shift, like someone adjusting their weight. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Aaron," I said slowly. "Did you?" "I heard it," she whispered. Neither of us turned around. We didn't need to, because we both knew there shouldn't have been anything back there. The car kept moving. The road stretched ahead of us, empty. And then, quietly, calmly, from somewhere just behind my shoulder, "Don't leave." My foot hovered over the brake. For a second, just a second, I almost stopped. That's what scares me the most, looking back. Not the voice, not the house, but how reasonable it sounded, how familiar. Like it wasn't trying to scare me anymore, it was trying to convince me. I pressed harder on the gas instead. The engine roared, the car picking up speed as we pushed farther down the road. "Keep going," Aaron said quickly. "Don't stop." "I'm not," I said, but the voice didn't fade. It didn't get quieter. If anything, it got clearer. "You can't leave." I swallowed, staring straight ahead. "We already did," I muttered under my breath. A pause, then, almost gently, "You stayed." Something in my chest tightened. "What does that even mean?" I said louder now, frustration cutting through the fear. No answer, just silence again. But not empty silence, watching silence. We drove for another 20 minutes before pulling into a small gas station just off the highway. Bright lights, people, movement, normal. We got out of the car, both of us scanning the space like we expected something to follow us out. Nothing did. Inside, everything felt grounded again. Real. The clerk barely looked up as we walked in. I remember thinking, maybe it's over. Maybe it really was just the house. But when we got back in the car, I noticed something. The rearview mirror, it had been adjusted, just slightly, angled differently than before. Enough that I could see more of the back seat than I had earlier. I stared at it for a long time. Erin noticed. "What is it?" she asked. I hesitated, then shook my head. "Nothing," because I didn't want to say it out loud. Didn't want to make it real. But the truth is, when I looked into that mirror, for just a second, I thought I saw something sitting back there. Not clearly, not fully, just a shape. Still, watching. And even now, I'm not sure if it was ever really tied to that house, or if that's just where it decided to let us notice it. I wish I could tell you this all stopped when we left that house, but it didn't. Some nights, when everything's quiet, I still hear it, just barely, like it's right behind me, waiting for me to notice. And the worst part is, it doesn't sound threatening anymore. It sounds familiar, like it belongs there. So if you ever hear something calling your name in the dark, don't answer. Just ignore it. That's what I should have done. And if this story unsettled you, if it made you feel like something might be watching even now, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are more stories like this, real ones, that people don't usually talk about. Just Don't listen too closely when it gets quiet.